Broadcasting from the ARN Racing Studios in Southern California, a turn for media company, ARN Los Angeles. This is ARN, the American Racing Network, the Motorsports Authority. Now,
drivers, start your engine!
You're shifting gears on ARN with Alan Bailey.
Well, there goes the neighborhood.
You name it, we got it. NASCAR.
Kyle Busch, the 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion.
Yeah, you guys are awesome!
Indycar.
Scott Dixon not only wins in Sonoma, but wins the 2015 championship.
We win on the tiebreak.
Incredible performance.
Drag racing.
Pop the corks, and Tron Brown is the champion for the second time in his career.
Supercross.
Ryan Dungey becomes the 2015 Monster Energy AMA Supercross champion.
And so much more. So get ready. You're shifting gears on ARN with Alan Bailey.
You are indeed on a Wednesday, March 9th, 2016. I had to look at the date. I forgot. It's been a long week already. Shifting gears, number 310 coming at you here. And yes, it was kind of a cool weekend. NASCAR out in Las Vegas, a very windy Las Vegas, which is something we don't normally see every time we go out to Las Vegas, but it is fairly common out for the Las Vegas, Nevada region to get a little dust bowl here and there. How did it affect the race? Well, we'll break it down. Plus, Supercross out in Daytona, always a great show out there. A lot of people were criticizing the track. Oh yeah, you gearheads had a lot to say about that. We'll break it on down in this hour. Don't worry. I heard you. I feel your pain. I'm going to give you a voice. Chillax, okay? We'll talk about it. Plus, a couple drivers did get hurt in Daytona. We'll give you updates on them. Indycar getting ready to kick off their season this weekend out in St. Petersburg in the streets out there. NASCAR continues its NASCAR Goes West tour that stops off in Phoenix this weekend, which, by the way, the teams never actually went home, so they've been in Phoenix for about a day already, and they've been kind of putt-putting along between Vegas and Phoenix for the last couple of days. We'll talk about that. Plus, we're going to be getting you a NASCAR recap lap by lap. We'll take you in the headsets in Vegas for a very language-filled, let's just say, recap, as well as Daytona Supercross breakdown with the guys from Fox Sports 1 recapping what they saw out there. But only one thing that we can do to kick everything off, and that is with today's Hot Topics presented by the NerdgasmPodcast.com. Now, Furniture Row Racing withdrew its penalty of 3-1 penalty charged against the team that would see its crew chief sit out for at least 1 week. They have accepted that penalty. They will not appeal, which means Todd Barrier will be on top of the number 78 Toyota's pit box this weekend, calling the races out in Phoenix. And speaking of Las Vegas, Brad Keselowski did win the Cup race in Vegas, passing Kyle Busch with less than 20 laps to go after Kyle's car experienced what appears to be a flat tire. Kyle Busch did, however, win the NASCAR Xfinity race that raced on Saturday out at the racetrack. And Eli Tomac winning 450 in Daytona, first win of the 2016 season. Is this a momentum builder for Tomac, or is it a lone victory of the season for him? We'll break it on down. James Stewart went down hard in a heat race, resulting in a bruised hip. We will break down if he will race this weekend out in Toronto. And Davey Millsap also hurt, went in for surgery. We'll get you an update on Millsap. And Josh Grant is expected to fill in for Will Hahn, who did get injured as well this weekend. Lucas Oil extending the naming rights of the Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis for several years. We'll break it on down. Sarah Fisher has been named the IndyCar pace car driver for the 2016 IndyCar season. We'll break down how many races she's going to be driving that pace car for. Kentucky Speedway is currently in the middle of a repave project. We do have an update on their progress and what changes will be coming to the Speedway after the repave project is completed later this year. and Hendrick Motorsports made scary headlines, and tell me if this sounds familiar. Hendrick Motorsports plane forced to make an emergency landing in Tennessee after smoke filled the cockpit. We'll get you the latest on this situation and why everyone, thankfully, was not hurt. And no NASCAR drivers from Hendrick Motorsports teams or any other of the drivers were actually on board this plane. We'll get you the latest. Plus, coming up this hour, we'll get you a NASCAR recap lap by lap brought to you by our friends at NASCAR.com. We'll take you in the headset, tell you what the drivers were saying, and let you hear what the drivers and crew chiefs were saying, and why a number of drivers were very upset and angry in Vegas on Sunday. Plus, we'll take you back out to Daytona to get a recap and a breakdown analysis of everything we saw on Saturday at the World Center of Racing. From the ARN News Desk, I'm Alan Bailey. That's your Hot Topics. So, looking at this weekend, the thing that we do at ARN pretty much every Tuesday right before the show, and we do it Wednesday before the show, is we sit down and we look at the whole weekend and figure what's the main story? What's the biggest thing that came out of the garage area in all of sports this last weekend to talk about? And honestly, kind of a coin flip. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are things happening in and around the garage area, whether it's Furniture Row deciding that they're not going to be dealing with that penalty, whether it's Goodyear having a tire test yesterday and today out in Charlotte, whether it's Keselowski with the upset win over the hometown boy of Kyle Busch on Sunday out in Las Vegas, whether it's Eli Tomac getting the win out in Daytona, which is a big deal, whether it's James Stewart getting hurt again, and yes, we will talk about James Stewart and if he should hang it up. A lot of you seem to think the latter. Whether it's Lucas Oil re-upping with Lucas Oil Raceway, whether it's the Hendrick Motorsports plane incident, not a plane crash, but an incident. I don't know. There are so many things going on, and they all seem more or less equally important across the board. So there is no main story this weekend, to tell you the truth. Indycar is coming up, is kicking off their season this weekend out in St. Pete, and yeah, that's going to be a huge deal. It's going to be a great race out there. NASCAR's heading to Phoenix. Always a great show out in Phoenix when NASCAR heads into town. Supercross is going to Toronto, and the layout, I think, is going to be presenting a number of interesting challenges for some riders, so we will talk about that as well. But overall, I want to hear what you think. At the Alan Bailey, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is where you can get me, where you can send me things like James Stewart and Tiger Woods are related. They both have... they're both a major migraine, and they're nursing their injuries in their respective sports. Time for them to stop playing around and just retire, both of you whiners. That one coming from Rick D.E. on the email account. Yeah, Rick, I mean, listen, I tend to agree with that. I mean, you look at James Stewart and Tiger Woods, they are very similar. They both were really on top of their game and dominating in their respective sports. I'll say this, Tiger, I think, was a little bit more dominant than James Stewart was, but I think that they both still have skills. But yes, their bodies unfortunately have, both of them, in Stewart's case and Wood's case, both of their bodies have more or less given up on them, and they're falling apart on a physical level. It's not due to neglect, it's due to injury and surgeries and issues. And James Stewart is at that age where you have to really look at him and go, well, how much longer can I do this if I'm James Stewart? How much longer should I do this? Is this even worth my effort and my time anymore? Because I was so good at one point, and I just don't seem to have it anymore. And that's something that really a number of riders go through whenever they hit a certain age. And James Stewart is definitely one of them right now, and that's something that he needs to seriously think about, is how much longer do I want to... do I really want to do this? Do I want to do this for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or do I just want to hang it up at the end of next season, which is what I kind of tend to, agree with, frankly. Again, this is all just, it's something that you have to consider. He's 30 years old. He's going to be 31 this year, so that's something he needs to think about. He's going to be 31 in December, in case you're wondering, and I don't know. That's something that Bubba has to really sit down and think about. Really, how much longer do I want to do this? You look at what Chad Reed's doing. Chad Reed's body he kept up with his body. He kept up with his training regimen. And James Stewart, frankly, this year has had bad luck after bad luck. He went down hard in the season opener, really got a concussion, and I don't think really has fully recovered from that concussion, frankly, because you're seeing remnants of the concussion and issues that could be caused from a head injury kind of rear its ugly head, unfortunately. And everybody's head it gets hurt differently, it heals differently, and that's something that James Stewart ultimately has to sit down and figure out for himself. How much longer should I do this? Could I do this? I do think that he came back in 2016 a little too quick after that initial head injury, and really it's just been kind of lingering and kind of milking it ever since this year. He needs to shut it down, call it a year, and focus on next season. That's what he needs to do. But he's going to continue to go out there and try to do his best for his sponsors. He sat out a year. He was forced to sit out a little over a year, actually, and that caused, I think, a little bit of his edge to go away. Yes, he kept up with his riding regimen. He was training and he was riding like there was no tomorrow during the time he was away from the track. And when he came back, it's a different animal. It's a very different animal because you can go out there and you can race as hard as you can on every test track and backyard track you can come up with different layouts and configurations, but racing out there by yourself and even with 2 or 3 other riders is completely different than when you get out there on Saturday night under the lights and you try to go out there with the best of the best. So I think that James kind of maybe didn't keep up with his training, but just it's not all there, and that's something he has to consider, is shutting it down. At the Alan Bailey, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can also use the hashtag ARNRace, where you can send me stuff like, I agree with that. I think he shouldn't risk getting injured anymore, even though he's my favorite rider. He doesn't have it anymore like Reed does. That one coming from Armando Liederman on Facebook. And Armando, I agree with you. I don't think he has it like Reed does, obviously, and I can't imagine that he's going to continue to try to push it and try to find something that clearly isn't there, unfortunately. This one coming on Facebook, I can't believe this guy gets sponsorship anymore. I have never been really impressed with his abilities. He stepped off the 125s. Yes, he was fast at times, but in more of a I'm riding over my head, crash and burn style than actual talent. And Bubba has always been a bit of a baby when it comes to injuries. Yep, time to retire James Stewart. That one coming from Wally Walton in Massachusetts. And yeah, Wally, I'll say this. James has always been kind of a kamikaze rider. He's always been that guy who's gone either 100% or crashed. And he either wins or crashes, it feels like, with James Stewart, at least in the last handful of years. And I do think he has talent, but I do have to agree. I don't think his talent is at the 450 level anymore. I think it was at one point, but he's not in his prime anymore. He's on the back end of his career, obviously. And at this point, I think he should try to go down to 250, as demeaning as that sounds, and race in 250 and see if he can ride the 250s out and contend. Because frankly, and I've had this discussion with other series, NASCAR in particular, I don't want to be a Cup driver or a 450 driver that's going out there and riding and racing mediocre and having mediocre finishes and finishing dead last or near dead last or in the bottom half of the field. I'd rather go into a lower series and contend in the top 5 every week and contend for a win every week. And more or less that's what happened with Elliott Sadler. He couldn't get it done in the Cup Series. He moved down to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and he's contending for wins, and he's winning a handful of races every year. No, he's not winning championships, but he's at least in the conversation. James Stewart hasn't been in the conversation for a number of years, and I don't think he ever will be again. Not unless he ultimately shuts it down for a year. And when I mean shut it down, I mean literally get off the bike now. Don't get back on that bike until midsummer. That's what I'm talking about. Take a few months off, get healthy, get your head straight, and then get back on the bike and start training towards the end of the summer, all through the fall, race, train, and then get ready for January and the 2017 season, because that ultimately is what he's got in his mind. And if you go into the 2017 season and James Stewart is having a good career and he's ultimately contending for podiums and contending for wins, then yeah, keep going. But if you're just being mediocre, then consider 2017 being your retirement year, James Stewart. That's all I'm saying, because you don't have those skills anymore. Or even if you do have the skills, we're not seeing them because you keep getting hurt. And head injuries are an issue for him, obviously. He now is dealing with this issue when he fell off the bike, and he did have a very hard hit in his defense. A very, very, very hard hit. I'm not downplaying that. When he fell, he has deep bruising to his lower back, and he fell on basically his ass. I mean, I can sugarcoat it and go, it is a hip issue. He has a bruised hip. No, he fell on his ass, like flat on his ass. The bike landed on him. He almost got hit, and it hurt. It looked like it hurt. You could hear him screaming almost in your head when you saw him go down on the replays. And if you want to watch the replay, it's up on arnrace.com. I don't fully encourage it because it is such a hard hit that it makes you go, oh, God. I'd rather break an arm than bruise my hip. And I'm being 100% serious when I say that. No, thank you. On that note, we'll go ahead and step aside here. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit of NASCAR. Get you a NASCAR recap from our boys over at NASCAR.com. Also, we'll take you in the headset a little bit later on. A lot of drivers unhappy on their radios over the weekend out in Las Vegas. We'll tell you why. Plus, we'll take you back out to Daytona to get you a recap on everything that we saw down in Supercross. Do yourself a favor. Don't go anywhere. You're shifting gears right here on ARN.
Take ARN anywhere. Download your favorite ARN programs on iTunes. Keyword search ARN and listen online at arnrace.com.
You must have thrown 1,000 pitches teaching him to hit a home run. Spent countless Saturdays running routes so he could learn to hit an open receiver. Endless afternoons teaching him how to hit the three-pointer. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit? Teaching boys that all violence against women is wrong is one of the most important things a man can do. Learn how to start the conversation at teachearly.org. Brought to you by Futures Without Violence and the Ad Council.
It's the Nerdgasm Podcast.
I want to point this out, though. I think Kylo's getting you're getting a bad rep, Kylo, because he stopped a laser blast midair. He can suck thoughts out of your mind.
Yep.
He doesn't fear anybody.
Yep.
Takes a laser blast from Chewie's weapon.
Yep.
Not afraid to show his face. Approaches his enemies often. Fights while bleeding out in the freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
And he's labeled a crybaby.
All right.
How is he labeled a crybaby?
The internet has labeled him a crybaby.
You know
oh
what?
My gosh.
I'm not the internet. I don't know.
Kylo took a lightsaber to the face.
He did.
And he just gave the death stare. He wasn't crying.
That was blood dripping down his face.
Well,
not
those
tears.
were tears. That was blood, dude.
Exactly. And if you want to claim that it were tears, then it was clearly the snow all over his face.
Now we can set the record straight.
All right.
So, Kylo, no cry baby.
Download new episodes of the Nerdgasm Podcast every Friday on nerdgasmpodcast.com, on iTunes, and now available on Stitcher.
You're shifting gears on ARN. Here's Alan Bailey.
At the Alan Bailey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also use the hashtag ARNRace in order to get in on this conversation. We're going to shift gears here a little bit. We talked about James Stewart in the last segment and his issues. We'll circle back to that in a little bit. But right now, I do want to talk about what happened this last weekend out at Las Vegas, because we did see a number of interesting things, let's just say, out in Las Vegas this last weekend. Kyle Busch did win the NASCAR Xfinity race in his hometown. Dominated that race. Totally dominated that race. And we did see Brad Keselowski get the win on Sunday. And how exactly did Keselowski pull off the win? Well, let's just go ahead and check out this week's NASCAR recap from our friends over at NASCAR.com.
The start of the Cobalt 400 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway was delayed a short time due to some light sprinkles, but Las Vegas native Kurt Busch led the field to green, hoping to end the day with his first win at his hometown track once the skies cleared. Our first caution of the day was a competition yellow on lap 30, and race leader Kurt Busch was busted for speeding on pit road. That sent him to the rear of the field. Denny Hamlin, who beat the 41 off of pit road anyways, will lead the field to green on the restart. Speeding penalties, though, seem to be a problem for multiple people. Over the course of the day, we saw a multitude of those penalties. A.J. Allmendinger, Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, and a few others joined Kurt Busch in the struggle to make it down pit road within the speed limit. Fast forward to lap 198, and Kyle Larson slaps the wall with the right rear quarter panel. A.J. Allmendinger got Larson loose, and the 42 slid the car up into the wall. Larson was able to keep it from spinning out, but the young gun would have a lot of damage on that car, but would continue in the race. During the ensuing caution, we saw NASCAR's wild weather day continue as a huge sandstorm engulfed the 1.5-mile oval. On the restart, Kyle Busch goes to the point. Kyle made a move from 6th on the restart, moving to the high side, passing Jimmy Johnson and Austin Dillon, then dips to the bottom of the racetrack to take the lead from Penske teammates Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano, but soon after, the 20 of Matt Kenseth would get loose, and he would get tagged by the 24 of Chase Elliott. That created a chain reaction wreck as several good cars were torn up in the incident, but Casey Kane steers clear. Carl Edwards gets away with minimal impact in the biggest incident of the day. With 6 laps to go, Brad Keselowski makes his way around the 18 of Kyle Busch. Brad checks out and outlasts the hometown kid Rowdy Busch. Keselowski goes on to win the Cobalt 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It would be the 18th victory of his Cup career. Next weekend, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series heads to Phoenix International Raceway for the second leg of NASCAR Goes West. For NASCAR.com, I'm Jonathan Merriman.
Thank you, Jonathan. Lots of interesting stuff out there. The thing that got me was that the wind did affect the drivers so much over the weekend. And you're going to tell me, no, it didn't. The wind wasn't that bad. No, it truly was. The race was actually very, very, very much affected by the winds. You look at it. The racetrack in general is kind of built in the middle of nowhere. And when I say that, I mean there's nothing really to the north of the racetrack. Pretty much the highway that goes north of the racetrack is pretty much nothing, but it does go until basically you hit another major city in about 2 hours. So there's nothing out there. Nellis Air Force Base is right across the street on the backstretch. And really, it's tucked up against some mountains ultimately. But it's basically dust out there. There's a lot of pavement out there, but there's a lot of dust, and we saw that this weekend. We saw, the effects of a dust storm in the middle of a desert. And to be frank, I'm surprised it hasn't happened before during a race out there, because I've been out there, in particular, years ago, before the reconfiguration that we saw a number of years ago, probably within the first 2-3 years of that racetrack opening, I was out there tailgating, and then all of a sudden, it was like El Nino. It was insane, and we ducked in the car, and we hid in the car, and keep in mind, the sun's out, it's 70, 80 degrees out, yet there's 50, 60 mile an hour gusts outside. And I'm talking about, man, this had to be back in like 2002, 2003, something like that. It was a while ago. But just to see the and to deal with the wind and everything that happened out there, it was absolutely insane. And I know from firsthand accounts that it gets extremely windy out in Vegas. We saw that throwing these cars around, and ultimately that could be what caused Kenseth's car to spin out. He wasn't sure if it was a tire going down. We didn't get that indication from him, and he didn't see or feel that in the car. A car did go underneath him, and we ultimately could say that it was an aero loose thing, but I really truly think that the cause of that issue for Matt Kenseth and him spinning out was purely the winds coupled with an aero loose issue caused that car to snap around all of a sudden, and Chase Elliott, unfortunately, nowhere to go. That kid's having a tough rookie season so far. He's had some really good runs. His Daytona car was actually really good, started on the pole, obviously, and really was showing a good race until he spun out and hit the wall. Last week in Atlanta, he had a top 10 finish, good solid run. Looked to have a good top 10 run this weekend until he got caught up in that accident. So if he could stay out of trouble, he's going to have a good season going. But ultimately, he's having a bad start right now. I also want to give a shout out to Ryan Truex, who in that number 21 Wood Brothers Ford had a heck of a race. Finished just outside the top 5. Had a few mishaps here and there, not going to lie, but ultimately he put himself in a position to finish inside the top 10. That's what he did, finishing just outside the top 5. Almost got that top 5 finish, first of his career, but a very, very good run for Truex. It is his best finish of the year so far and of his career, and keep an eye on him because he is going to be doing some stuff this season, my friends. Trust me. Now, ultimately, Vegas, how would I grade the race? It was actually a very, very good race. Didn't really see tire issues, although tires were a premium in this race. But ultimately, we just saw cars getting into one another, causing spins. The winds were causing havoc. It was a case of you got to take care of your equipment. It is what bit Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch had a very good car on the short runs, but ultimately, he, with 30 laps to go, restarted that race and then just didn't save his equipment and got out there and then just all that equipment, all his tires wore out very fast. He thought he had a tire going down, and ultimately that was his race. That is what made the difference, and that's what Kyle Busch needed to keep an eye on and needed to remember in the Cup race. He did it in the Xfinity race. He didn't have an issue in the Xfinity race, but in that Cup race, boy, oh boy, he had some issues. Yes, the winds were clocked at 60 miles an hour. Very, very, very bad. We did see that in the pre-race and during the race itself. The Penske driver staying out right there. That was a gutsy move. It really was. Kyle Busch pulling down to the inside. That was just a classic Kyle Busch move right there near the end. And basically went out to the lead right before Kenseth spun out, and then caught up a number of different drivers, including the 19. His teammate spun out there, and a number of other drivers got into it. The 41 was spinning out on that one as well. The 41 got into the 19. They spun around, but ultimately it was Keselowski that had a better car right there at the end. Kyle's car and his equipment went away because he used it up too fast. Keselowski saved his equipment, and that's what you have to do in NASCAR. Save your equipment until the time being, until you need it. And Keselowski ultimately got his first win in almost a year. The last time Keselowski went to victory lane, the Auto Club Speedway, almost 1 year ago. So it's been quite a while for Keselowski, which is kind of a little odd actually for that organization. So cool to see them go back to victory lane this last weekend with Penske kicking off on their historic year, their 60th anniversary, or excuse me, their 50th anniversary this season. So Team Penske, good run for them. They finished 1-2. That was a very, very good run for them. Very cool run to see them do that, to lead off into their IndyCar season debuting this weekend. So kind of a cool Kickstarter for Team Penske getting ready for this weekend's season opener for the Verizon IndyCar Series out in St. Petersburg. And this is really that time of the year where everything is kind of in flux for especially organizations running in multiple series. You have multiple series starting up, and everything starts to get a little bit hectic and a little bit time crunch sensitive. NASCAR being on the West Coast, that ultimately does cause some, not issues, but it causes some challenges, let's just say. And the fact that Penske is kicked off their West Coast tour with a win, and really a very busy time for them with their season starting off in IndyCar, that's very cool. That's a very cool thing to give to Roger, his first win of the 2016, his 50th year in racing season. Very cool to see Keselowski give him that win in the NASCAR side. Can they do it in St. Petersburg? Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, so don't go anywhere for that one. Now, we'll go ahead and we'll step aside here one more time. When we do get back, we are going to talk a little bit more about this Furniture Row penalty and why it was a wiser decision just to back off and more or less say, you know what, NASCAR, yeah, we'll go ahead and take it. But ultimately, what's Truex going to do without his crew chief? And more importantly, him and Todd Berrier, are they going to get along? Is there going to be issues between those two drivers? We'll talk about it. And also, NASCAR had kind of a questionable call this weekend during the NASCAR Xfinity race when Bubba Wallace got into the wall. There was a delay of caution, and NASCAR's policy for the caution flags might be called into question. So do yourself a favor. Don't go anywhere. You're shifting gears right here on ARN.
Sick of bad race coverage or none at all from those other networks? Make ARN your one and only for all things motorsports. ARN, the Motorsports Authority.
Hi, I'm Jeff Hammond alongside NASCAR driver David Reagan.
When it comes to tire safety, nothing is more important than your tire's air pressure.
Just like a pit stop, checking your air pressure takes just a few moments.
And those few moments will not only keep you and your family safe on the road, it can also help save you money.
Properly inflated tires can improve gas mileage, which will save you money at the pump.
So be tire smart and make sure your tires are properly inflated.
Learn more at betiresmart.org. A message from the Rubber Manufacturers Association.
It's the Nerdgasm Podcast.
I want to point this out, though. I think Kylo's getting you're getting a bad rep, Kylo, because he stopped a laser blast midair. He can suck thoughts out of your mind.
Yep.
He doesn't fear anybody.
Yep.
Takes a laser blast from Chewie's weapon.
Yep.
Not afraid to show his face. Approaches his enemies often. Fights while bleeding out in the freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
And he's labeled a crybaby.
All right.
How is he labeled a crybaby?
The internet has labeled him a crybaby.
You know
oh
what?
my god.
I'm not the internet. I don't know.
Kylo took a lightsaber to the face.
He did.
And he just gave the death stare. He wasn't crying.
That was blood dripping down
Yeah,
his
that
face.
was
not
those
tears.
weren't tears. That was blood, dude.
Exactly. And if you want to claim that it were tears, then it was clearly the snow all over his face.
Now we can set the record straight.
All right.
So Kylo, no cry baby.
Download new episodes of the Nerdgasm Podcast every Friday on nerdgasmpodcast.com, on iTunes, and now available on Stitcher. Download and listen to your favorite ARN programs on the go. Download Shifting Gears on arnrace.com, iTunes, and now available on the Stitcher app. ARN, the Motorsports Authority.
You're shifting gears on ARN. Here's Alan Bailey.
In case you missed it, last week NASCAR dropped the bomb after infractions with the number 78 car were found post-Atlanta race. They issued a P3 level penalty, which essentially is 15 points, driver and owner, and the suspension of your crew chief, which is what we saw with Martin Truex Jr.'s crew chief missing the race this weekend. Basically, NASCAR had given them a pass for this weekend out in Vegas until they heard the case this week, or they were scheduled to hear the case this week, but the team confirmed in Tuesday afternoon that they did more or less they more or less rolled over, and they said, you know what, it's okay. They withdrew that appeal for the penalty for illegal roof flaps, so Cole Pearn will be absent this weekend out at the Phoenix International Raceway. You look at it, he was suspended for a race. He is suspended for one race, and the penalties that will stand: 15-point deduction, driver and owner, as well as a $50,000 fine. Curran had previously been placed on probation for the roof flap during pre-inspection for the Daytona 500. That is why everything is so heavy this week, is because he more or less violated that probation, and that's why he's sitting out a week. He was allowed to work at the two-day tire test beginning Tuesday. The session isn't a NASCAR-sanctioned activity, so the suspension will not apply to the tire test that's happening today, and it happened yesterday out at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. He is out there. He was out there yesterday. He is out there today, and after today, he's more or less accepting his suspension for 7 days from all NASCAR-sanctioned activities, which ultimately is just the Cup race in Phoenix this coming weekend. So, kind of a heavy penalty, or kind of, I don't want to say it's a heavy penalty because it truly is not. It could have been a lot worse for him. It could have been a lot worse for Martin Truex Jr. and for Furniture Row, but ultimately it does mean that he's without his normal crew chief for this weekend. So what does that mean for Furniture Row and Martin Truex Jr. this weekend in Phoenix? Todd Berrier is stepping in to crew chief this weekend's race. Think about it. Berrier worked at Furniture Row Racing from July 12 until the end of the 2014 season, when he left to become the director of fabrication over at Joe Gibbs Racing. Because of the suspension, they announced that he's coming back on board just for this one race as the crew chief. Pearn was Berrier's lead engineer while working over at Furniture Row on Chevys, driven by Regan Smith, Kurt Busch, and then Martin Truex Jr. So, more or less Todd knows how to work with this team. He's worked with them before, so it's very natural fit. It is interesting that he is coming over from Joe Gibbs Racing. It shows that Joe Gibbs Racing and that Toyota, they're all working together. And yes, Joe Gibbs Racing does have a technical alliance with Furniture Row, but to see that actually play out, it shows that there is a level of cooperation within that camp and within everything that's going on over at Furniture Row Racing. Don't think we ever saw that level of cooperation between basically their affiliates last year with RCR and now and with Chevy. So I think Toyota is utilizing the things that ultimately Chevy did not, let's just say, in past years. So that's very cool. But ultimately he is going to be with a new crew chief for this weekend. And yeah, it's a very fair penalty. I mean, the same issue they had in Daytona, they had in the very, very, very next week out in Atlanta. What do you expect? I mean, clear rule violation. There's no debating that. There really is not. So, the tire test is cool that they're working on that, but ultimately one race is not the make or break for this team. They do need to win a race in order to qualify for the chase. They did qualify last year, not only on the win, but they did finish top 5 in points before the chase, and they did finish, obviously, in the top 6 in points in the championship last year. So this is a very good team. It's a championship contending team. They're thinking long-term, bigger picture. Put this behind you, write the check, fix the problem for next weekend out in Phoenix and for the Auto Club race in 2 weeks. Just move it, put it behind you, move past it. You screwed up. Let's get back on track and focus on winning races. And that's what they're doing. That's the mature, smart thing to do here. Now, a couple more notes in the NASCAR world. The Kentucky Speedway repave, it's actually looking pretty good, actually, I'll say. They're doing a number of things to that track. They are increasing the banking a little bit. They're redoing the paving all the way around that racetrack, which is something that hasn't been done out in Kentucky since the track was paved. So right now they're laying down dirt and really smoothing the dirt out, and then they'll put a layer of concrete and asphalt over that and really pave the thing out and make it look real smooth. But basically they're out there using heavy machinery, getting ready to go now. I think it's very cool to see the Kentucky Speedway and any speedway just putting that money in. It takes a lot of money to repave a racetrack. It's not just tear the track up and put new asphalt down. It's a lot of things. They're going from 14-degree banking to 17-degree banking. They've been underway since late February, and right now it looks like a dirt track, but come mid-April, weather permitting, the asphalt surface will begin to be laid down in preparation for the July race out in NASCAR out there for all 3 series. It's just very cool. They the general manager of Kentucky Speedway, Mark Slinginger, took to social media. He went on Twitter and posted a bunch of pictures, and he has been posting pictures throughout this entire process, and it does look extremely cool to see that happen. And speaking of track repaves, Watkins Glen also in the middle of a track repave. That's looking very good. Right now, today they just posted up on social media a few minutes ago, 67 degrees out there at that racetrack, and the front stretch actually looks extremely good. It looks extremely, extremely good heading down into that L-shaped turn 1 out there down at the Glen. It looks very cool, and that's coming along very nicely from what we're being told as well. So tracks are investing in their properties. Who'd have thunk it? And even though I'm very against track repaves for the first 2 or 3 years, I'm very much for it in the long term, because we won't see what happened at Martinsville a number of years ago, where a piece of the track comes up and literally takes out some poor driver's car, like Jeff Gordon a few years ago back in 2004. That's something that's not good, obviously, and that's something that we won't see after this year. So that's very cool, I believe. Now, a lot of you guys keep asking for this, and you can log on to AaronRace.com to view it yourself if you want. A lot of you have been asking for in-car audio. I want more in-car audio. I love the in-car audio. Well, we're taking you in the headsets. It's a feature we'll do whenever we have time permitting on the program. We'll take you in the headsets of these drivers and really get you in the mindset of these drivers and what it's like on a weekly basis for them. So this week we'll go ahead and do it again here. We'll take you in the headset, and here we go. We go in the headset with the drivers, with the crew chiefs, and just let you know, what do these guys think about the Vegas race and the high winds? I don't know. Let's check out this week's In the Headset.
It has been a very strange and peculiar weather day here in Las Vegas.
Tie yourself to one of them light poles up there. You should be all right. Brad, have you a good one out there?
Appreciate it. Go make it happen.
We'll have some fun here. Do some burn at the end. Green flag, green flag, green, green, green. The Tomac 34 car stayed in lane.
David Reagan, such a jackass.
Click in the back, but you guys got to do it hard to communicate it here.
Get a race with because these stupid ass pit stops.
We don't want to hear another word about that, Austin. It's a team effort. Come on, get your head in the game.
The head's been in the game.
These lap cars, if they're going to run the top, they point us to the bottom. Two to Johnson, run a little higher you. Now one in your track, still one back.
How long it's nice for him to point me to the bottom after he comes up and takes the top away from me.
I can't do anything when you got a dumbass like a 44 that just screamed it on the outside lap after lap.
We're under a competition yellow.
Leader Kurt Busch will lead the field onto the pit lane. Speed limit's 45 miles per hour.
41, too fast on pit road, section 4. Too fast on pit road, section 4. They just called it out. You're talking to me? That's what I just said. I just heard 41. Whatever NASCAR grows up and goes to a pit road speed limiter button, we'll all have a safer pit road. So they busted the 41 for speeding. Boy, I thought he was going faster than me, and I was like, yeah, of all my life. So, yeah, boy, good to know. 50.10. 50.10. Yeah, a tenth of a mile an hour is not worth whatever we just got. Still loose. It's bouncy as hell. My guts are killing me. I'm in a lot of pain. The ride on the back stretch and off of 4 just beating me up inside. It hurts real bad. Up my organs is pissed off. Next one in your mirror is the leader, 48. Going as hard as I can. Just shut up. Watch your outside here. 16. How do you run to get the fence off the third floor? 48 might send to 16. Just watch him. He should.
Well, what the hell are you mad at me about?
I don't know why he was such a he racing you like that. But lays over for those other two.
Yeah, he's always been too worried about me.
Too fast on pit road, section 1. Sorry, guys, cost us the day this time. My fault. Trying to get something like you want me to. Just stupid. Penalty here. Got to pass through.
He's speeding.
10-4, speedy.
17, 16, and 42 too fast. All pass-throughs.
Brad Keselowski hit the siren, boys. Speeding penalty exiting.
All right, sped here. 6 and 7, last two segments.
Couldn't have been by much because I was right on my number.
And 4, but be all right. We got time. They busted about 10 people speeding today. Because the lights in these pieces of dashes suck. They jump all over the place. I was afraid that one of them was going to be me.
Rubble back straight away.
All right, guys, he wrecked us right here. Hang on to it up there. I didn't even touch him. Well, I feel like a freaking idiot. The 47 just wrecked him. That's what happened.
I hope NASCAR's listening. It's because he was probably the lucky dog. That's what he did to me at Loud. He's an idiot. Good for you for making the effort, but he's dirty.
You're 5 past Blaney if he comes, and if you come. The road is open. Coming to me, coming to me.
Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Austin Dillon, they did not pit.
Tab, do you hear me say coming to me, coming to me? I did. Just want to make sure everybody heard me. I didn't miss a key or something. 18's on your ass, looking outside, You're slightly ahead. The 18's coming quickly from behind you.
Behind him to 18. Watch 18. Watch the bottom, watch the bottom, watch the bottom inside.
Where the hell did he come from?
No idea how the 18 got that big of a damn run.
All clear. Hit your marks.
Matt Kenseth is sliding. He's up to the outside wall. He collects Chase Elliott.
I have no idea, Jason. No clue. I don't know if that's a flat or what. The back end is totally gone. Somebody hit me at about 190.
Logano and Keselowski are catching the race leader.
Car width off you, outside. Clear, come on, get up.
I don't know what the deal is. I've been getting a really bad vibration about the last 10 laps. Right front feels like it's coming apart.
Here it is, battle for the lead, down the backstretch. Kyle Busch riding his right quarter panel. New leader on 4 is Brad Keselowski.
Oh, yes. If there's more I can do, I don't have it.
Brad Keselowski, his 18th Sprint Cup win.
Yeah, guys, yes. Man, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Good effort all weekend. We weren't any better than that anyway. Fantastic to give one away, but
Awesome 1-2 finish for this Team Penske.
I just lost a little bit of turn there where he beat us.
We've now opened up the season. 3 races, 3 different winners. Denny Hamlin, Jimmy Johnson, now Brad Keselowski have punched their ticket into the chase.
Sick of bad race coverage or none at all from those other networks? Make ARN your one and only for all things motorsports. ARN, the Motorsports Authority.
When property is at risk and lives are at stake, we get moving. We're the Air Force Reserve. Our mission, an aerial assault on Mother Nature's most daunting adversary, forest fires. Armed with C-130s and the finest reservists, we stop fires in their tracks by dropping thousands of gallons of fire retardant in just seconds.
Drop.
Where there are citizens in need, the Air Force Reserve is there, working to save our forests, to save our communities, and to save lives. Air Force Reserve aerial firefighting may be a part-time job, but it's a full-time experience, and just one of many exciting careers in the Air Force Reserve. Call 800-257-1212 for more information. That's 800-257-1212, or visit us online at afreserve.com. Air Force Reserve, above and beyond.
You must have thrown 1,000 pitches teaching him to hit a home run. Spent countless Saturdays running routes so he could learn to hit an open receiver. Endless afternoons teaching him how to hit the three-pointer. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit? Teaching boys that all violence against women is wrong is one of the most important things a man can do. Learn how to start the conversation at teachearly.org. Brought to you by Futures Without Violence and the Ad Council.
It's the Nerdgasm Podcast.
I want to point this out, though. I think Kylo's getting you're getting a bad rep, Kylo, because he stopped a laser blast midair. He can suck thoughts out of your mind. He doesn't fear anybody. Takes a laser blast from Chewie's weapon. Not afraid to show his face. Approaches his enemies often. Fights while bleeding out in the freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
And he's labeled a crybaby.
All right.
How is he labeled a crybaby?
The internet has labeled him a crybaby.
You know what?
Oh my gosh.
I'm not the internet. I don't know.
Kylo took a lightsaber to the face.
He did.
And he just gave the death stare. He wasn't crying.
That was blood dripping down his face.
Those were tears. That was blood, dude.
Exactly. And if you want to claim that it were tears, then it was clearly the snow all over his face.
Now we can set the record straight.
All right.
So Kylo, no cry baby.
Download new episodes of the Nerdgasm Podcast every Friday on nerdgasmpodcast.com, on iTunes, and now available on Stitcher.
You're shifting gears on ARN. Here's Alan Bailey.
At the Alan Bailey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so you can get involved in this conversation. You can also use the hashtag ARNRace to get in on this. We've talked NASCAR. We've covered everything that happened out in Vegas pretty thoroughly, mind you. So now want to head out to Daytona again and catch up with everything that happened down in Daytona. And really, the thing that we have to do more than anything is handed over to the guys over in the Fox Sports 1 booth, because they truly had a bird's eye view over everything we saw. Guys, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Daytona International Speedway. Ralph Shaheen alongside Ricky Carmichael and Jeff Emig, where this year's edition of the Daytona Supercross by Honda has seen 2 checkered flags fall here tonight in the 250 East Championship and, of course, in the big Premier 450 class. Let's start with the 250 East Championship. Ricky, boy, a tremendous battle there tonight.
Yeah, it sure was. And honestly, I thought Malcolm Stewart handled the pressure from Jeremy Martin extremely well, a lot longer than I thought he would. Quite honestly, I thought Jeremy Martin would have passed him a lot earlier on in the race, and he just couldn't get by him. So kudos to Malcolm for sure. But at the end of the day, I really thought that it was Jeremy Martin's race to win. He had to win. He's 2-time defending outdoor national champion, and this was his race to win.
Justin Hill did a great job coming home in second place.
He did.
So now let's shift it over to the 450 class and the Premier class here. You know, a lot of people were thinking maybe Ryan Dungey would just win another one and run away with it. Eli Tomac and the Monster Energy Kawasaki team has been searching for some momentum. They got it big time tonight.
Well, a great start can do that. Tomac gets out front. Dungey was second.
the interesting thing there is that Dungey really hounded Tomac, and Tomac performed really, up to his standard. Before this race, he's only had one podium. He was a third, and other than that, his season with the new team, Monster Energy Kawasaki, really just hasn't been that good. And so, they've been searching for some settings on the bike, but tonight it all came together, and he was very, very strong. And so now Tomac is able to get this win, build his confidence. Obviously, the chemistry and the mojo with the team is going to be much better, and the remnants of the double shoulder surgery last summer now can finally be put in the rearview mirror, and he can look forward.
Well, and not only that factory Kawasaki squad, they hadn't seen the top step of the podium in quite a while. I believe it was about 25 races. Ryan Villapoto had won the last 4 races of 2014. That was the last time they'd been to the top step of the podium.
Yep.
So now, as Tomac said, we still need to work a little bit more. Now they have the energy to do it.
Well, they do, and the best recipe for recovery is a win. He was able to do that at the toughest Supercross of the year, in my opinion. So I think this is going to give him a kick start for sure and some momentum, and even he said it himself. So I was happy for him.
Well, the Daytona Supercross by Honda is complete here at the World Center of Racing, and your winners are Jeremy Martin and Eli Tomac.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, I got to agree with Ricky Carmichael here because really, I honestly thought Malcolm Stewart, for maybe 5 laps, I thought, okay, he's got it. And then you see him kind of start to fade a little bit, and you went, I don't know. And then, obviously, everything that happened, and he went down right there, right before the finish line. It ended up coming across the line 4th, just missing out on a podium finish. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely saw that, but at the same time, heck of a race. You were sitting there going, maybe, just maybe, and it really was close right there at the end, and that's what you want of these outdoor races like this. And Daytona is such an interesting race because even though technically it's in Supercross and it's not an outdoor race, it is, because Daytona's front stretch is so open, and you get that sense of just openness and that feeling. It just feels like an outdoor race, and the course is set up somewhat like an outdoor race, meaning that you have these very wide open turns that don't have the sharp turns like we see whenever we go into a stadium. And the fact that you saw Tomac go out and just dominate was just so cool to watch. He more or less got the whole shot and was right there in the front the whole race, and that was very cool to see him lead all those laps and to log those laps and to go out in front and do that, because it really shows you that he definitely had the bike to beat. He had the winning bike, and he's making it happen all year long, and it was very cool to see that happen. Dungey obviously was right there, but it was Tomac's race to win, and it was so cool to see that happen. Now, a lot of you were asking about everything that happened with everything that was going on. We saw Davey Millsap sustain 3 broken ribs and severely bruised and partially collapsed his lung in a crash during the race. They made the announcement on Supercross or he made the announcement on Supercross, or on his Instagram rather. I'm sorry. My brain is fried already, man. It's towards the end of the show. What do you expect? He's 9th in points. He was coming off of a 4th in Atlanta. He was credited with 19th in Daytona. Obviously, that's not reflective of how he was driving, but it is something that you have to keep in mind. That team has severely gotten many blows, unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks here. Andrew Sorch sustained a concussion last week, and he's out indefinitely, and now this more or less is going to put him out for the season, and who's going to fill in for Millsap, and that's the main question right now, and we don't know. We're expecting an announcement from that team probably either today or tomorrow, but we won't know for a little while now. And we know that Will Hahn got injured and that he has been injured, and the latest rumor has Josh Grant expected to fill in for Will Hahn on that Monster Energy Kawasaki. Grant made his debut in Daytona on a Suzuki powered by Plout Raceway, and he did ride for the team last summer at Lucas Oil Motocross after 22 Motorsports folded. he's kind of up in the air. But Grant did finish 7th at Daytona, his first race this season, and an official announcement is expected to come in the last few days. We do know that Will Hahn is out of surgery, and he's looking a lot better now, but he is on the road to recovery, and it's going to be a long road, but hopefully it's something that he'll be able to just get well soon, and we'll see him back on a bike here very quickly, hopefully, but unfortunately we don't know. We talked about it earlier. James Stewart did go down this last weekend in a heat race in 450. He does have a bruised hip. He did more or less fall on his ass, for lack of a better phrase, and he is out probably this weekend. We don't have official word from the team, but it's all how James feels. He's still nursing a concussion that he sustained in the season opener in Anaheim 2 months ago. So that's something that is still, no pun intended here, on his mind, and that his body's dealing with. But whether he's out this weekend for Toronto is still very much up in the air, and all we could do is wait and see with him, unfortunately. And right now, that's all we have. And something I do want to talk about is doubling back to NASCAR real quick, something I did want to mention before the end of the show here. A lot of drivers had speeding penalties this weekend out in Vegas, something that NASCAR implemented for the Daytona 500 this year and for the 2016 season are these new digital dashboards. For years, we've gone analog, and we've had actual gauges that have shown water temperature, revs, fuel pressure, oil pressure, temperatures, that sort of thing. And now NASCAR made it go 100% digital. And I do like the advancement in technology. I think that is it is a must in order to keep up with current technology and how cars are built today. I think that is very cool. However, I think that it still needs a little refining. The number one thing that was brought up this weekend is maybe better lights on the dash, maybe a button that can hold the car at a certain rev. That way it's out of the driver's hands and it's in programming's hands when it comes to monitoring speed road limits, because that is somewhat of an issue, are these new dashes and getting used to these new dashes. And is NASCAR going to do that? I don't know. That's kind of a let's wait and see kind of thing, but that's something that Clint Boyer brought up on his radio, was the fact that these new dashes lights are just really hard to read, and it's a bit of an issue. And it's not like NASCAR setting them up to fail, but there is a bit of an issue with getting these things actually dialed into how they should be. So that's something to keep in mind for the future races. And when you see your driver getting a speeding penalty on pit road this weekend or in the future, it might be because they can't physically see the lights on the dash indicating what their revs are at and what their RPMs are at currently. It could be a setting issue. It could be that NASCAR does need to do a complete overhaul. It's one of those things that NASCAR needs to look into it, the teams need to look into it, and they need to communicate a little bit and figure out what they can do to help better remedy this situation, because it is something that is still has become an issue, I should say, for everybody in the garage area. We are getting word that a member of Kevin Harvick's pit crew has been hospitalized with broken ribs and a collapsed lung. Basically, Stewart-Haas Racing actually went up to Utah, I should say, for a snowmobiling trip. And unfortunately, Michael McCarvin, who is a shock specialist for Kevin Harvick's team, was hospitalized with several broken ribs, 7 broken ribs actually, and a collapsed lung while on a snowboarding excursion with Stewart-Haas Racing team members. He was on the championship-winning crew in the 2014 season. He tweeted a picture out today of him on a snowboarding, saying, "Went from this wonderful day with the team to hospital with a collapsed lung and 4 broken ribs. Bleep happens quick." You can only imagine what that was. The team was staying out west instead of returning to North Carolina between Vegas and the Phoenix Racing. A team spokesperson stated that Adam Glavin will replace him on the team this weekend, and they do wish him a very speedy recovery. And we over at ARN and Shifting Gears do as well. Get well soon, pal. We'll hopefully see you out the track very, very shortly. there is a lot of speculation right now. We have about a minute left that Vegas is asking for a different race date. We don't know of that specifically. Haven't heard about that, but we do know that the request was that the request deadline was March 4th. So roughly 5 days ago was the deadline to basically change any dates for the 2017 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series season. No word of that yet, but we'll keep an eye on that and let you know. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I will say this. Sarah Fisher going to be your IndyCar pace car driver for the 2016 season. She's going to be sharing that duty with the man that we all know as the IndyCar pace car driver, and that is, do you know who? Do you? Tell you what, I might send you a hat if you send me the answer at my email, alan@AmericanRacingNetwork.com. Who drives that pace car normally? I'll tell you this. His name might be Johnny Rutherford. I'm just saying, it might be. On that note, we are out of time. For everybody here at the American Racing Network and Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. Thanks for listening. We'll see you at the track.
You've been listening to the American Racing Network, a turn for media company. This is ARN, the Motorsports Authority.